president threatening them on Twitter. They're coming back with this. We got the Strait of Hormuz. We've got this beautiful graphic at some risk here. Oil not moving, and that surprises me a little bit. Does it surprise you?
I think people don't really perceive how serious the threat is in terms of Iran and the Trump administration. I think there's a view out there that the Middle East is always a mess. We've had for years these periodic threats to close the Straits of Hormuz. It hasn't happened. So people are asking, why is it different this time? I think it's different because I think the Iranian regime probably feels more threatened by the Trump administration than previous regimes in Washington.
Do you think that the Strait of Hormuz could be shut down? Because I think that the U.S. Navy might have something to say about that.
The U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain
is right there.
It's right there. They will keep the straits open.
But that's now that's a conflict.
That's a conflict. And that said, could you have, potentially mining at the straits? Could you have, tankers attacked, harassed? And so anytime the U.S. is forced to come out and basically keep a waterway open, I think that's very bullish for oil, given how important the Straits of Hormuz is.
If we see that Fifth Fleet start to move,
yes,
just kind of let's go check out what's going on. Do you think oil then reacts, or would it take some kind of actual conflict for that rally, for that move?
I would say to watch is, look what happened in April. We had actually a Saudi tanker struck in the Bab el-Mandeb Straits. They basically had 2 million barrels on it. If that tanker had been sunk, if a tanker is sunk in the Straits of Hormuz, I think then the market will understand the risks that we're talking about.
What is the ultimate upside risk to any kind of Saudi-Iranian or U.S.-Iranian conflict? Is it $100 barrel oil?
Depending on how it plays out. If we have a full-on military engagement, you are going to be well past 100. But if you have, for example, the Iranians restarting their nuclear program, if they pull out of the non-proliferation treaty, if we have a ballistic missile fired from Yemen hit something significant in Saudi Arabia, then you're talking about a much higher price environment.
But is there a scenario in which the Iranians might just say, you know what, everyone's coming down on us anyway, screw it, we're just going to go back to the nuclear plant because we don't care. If everyone's going to say you can't buy our oil and the president's going to say this, that we're going to do what we want anyway, because what else are you going to do to us?
Well, that's what some of the Iranian leadership are saying. Like, why don't we just pull out of the non-proliferation treaty?
We're a sovereign state. We're going to do what we want.
Kick out the inspectors. And in fact, North Korea, they have weapons and people deal with them on better terms.
Overall, the markets, obviously well supplied. Libya, I guess, trying to find a separate piece, to quote John Knowles.
I think the thing about Libya is it remains a very unreliable producer. And right now you've had Saudi Arabia and Russia ramp up, but we haven't had the full effects of Iran sanctions. So we need to watch how many Iranian barrels come off the market. And the country to watch, which is the wild card, I think, is what is happening in Iraq. We have
Iraq, not Iran.
Well, Iran, everyone knows about. We've had significant protests in southern Iraq around oil fields. And so if we have problems with Iraqi production, coinciding with back and forth on Libya with Iran sanctions and Venezuela, then the market isn't so well supplied.
But Iraq has done a very good job at maintaining their output despite constant conflict in the north. Occasionally the pipeline gets blown up, and they're pretty good at protecting it in the south.
Well, we haven't had protests like we're seeing now in the south. Again, that's why we highlight this is a developing story that bears very, very close watching.
What's the next big thing then that we have to watch? Is it this continued Iranian back and forth with the president?
The first set of U.S. sanctions snap back the first week of August. What you want to watch is, what is the Iranian response when those sanctions kick back? Do they simply say, we're done with the nuclear deal? Why should we suspend nuclear activities when sanctions are coming back?
Okay, I know because I follow you on all forms of social media. You just got back from Abu Dhabi.
Yes.
What's the talk there? What are people talking about behind the scenes?
Well, what's interesting, part of the reason I've come back talking about Iraq is I heard a lot of people there talk about concerns about Iraq. I think there really is question marks about, is the region getting more volatile? What happens? Do we get tight in this market when the Iranian barrels roll off?
And what's the answer?
I do think we get tighter than many market participants realize. I think the administration is very, very serious about trying to take Iran out of the oil market. Of course, China will continue to buy, but if you are going to be aggressive in targeting banks of foreign refineries, I think a lot of refineries will have to halt their purchases.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.